And as he's coming around right before he's about to get onto the highway, I hit my lights and I give a little chirp on my siren, just a little boop, and so he gets onto the highway and pulls right over onto the shoulder, right? I walk up, I tell the guy who I am, I tell him the spiel about the stolen car thing, and I ask for his driver's license, right? So he takes his driver's license, and I never forget this. He's got it in his right hand, right? And he goes to hand it to me, right? And as I go to grab it, he pulls it in. Now, right here is where the problem is. So maybe I'm complacent, maybe I'm whatever, but I make this huge rookie mistake. I reach into the car, okay? It's a big no-no. So I reach in, and as I reach in, I notice that his foot's on the brake, the car's in drive. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and with his left arm, he hooks my arm, and he punches the gas. And now we're going into the highway, and I'm trying to run, okay? Now, because I went to grab the license with my left hand to keep my, weapon hand free, right? So he's got me hooked, and I'm trying to run to keep up as he's getting onto the highway. And I know that I can't keep up, obviously, right? But if I yank my arm out, which I could probably do, I'm going to fall and get run over by his back tires, right? So in my mind, the only choice I have, I dive into the car, right? So now I'm
right? Oh, I didn't expect that one. Okay, yeah, right? Wow. So, welcome back, everybody, on the Rumbling Facts podcast, where we talk about uncomfortable truths and dive into conversations that most people shy away from. And we dive deep into stories that inspire growth, courage, and resilience. And before we dive in, I want to shout out to all my supporters who've been listening since the beginning. And if you guys didn't check out my music yet, do it. It's DJ Red Sam with Master Upside Down. So DJ Red Sam on all music platforms. We're at 185,000 streams, people, in less than a year because I started January 2nd. So isn't that amazing? I never expected this. So if you want to check out thought-provoking songs, well, just flip to Spotify. And in today's episode, we have an amazing story that would blow your fucking mind, people. This person survived an attempted murder as a narcotics detective and also surviving a near-death experience in a wingsuit skydiving accident, and most people never come back. And he even fell paralyzed, only to come back even stronger with this powerful story of faith, resilience, and human spirit. Our guest today is the incredible Gary Pacelli. Okay. Author of Not My Time, because it was not Gary's time. Gary's journey is nothing short of extraordinary for me. From serving as a narcotics detective assigned to the DEA, taking on life-threatening missions to become a skydiving enthusiast who has defied all odds. His story is packed with action, people. So buckle up and welcome to the podcast, Gary. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Your story was so amazing. When I read it for the first time, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We got to talk to this person. So can you tell us a bit more about your upbringing? How was it like, and how it shaped who you were like today, or when you decided to go into police work?
So, I was brought up in middle class neighborhood. My parents moved out of like a city, Paterson, New Jersey, which is it's the third largest city in New Jersey. So they moved out to the country, which is about, back then, that's what they called it, So so it was a small town, and but I had two older brothers that would beat the shit out of me all the time, right? Like just constantly. And I deserved it most of the time. I always came back for more. So it was a give and take, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and I'm glad today because looking back on my situation, everything that happened to me, like even as a kid, having my brothers always beating the shit out of me, every single thing that happened in my life prepared me for that moment when I had my wingsuit accident, because it took all of that to survive it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, every single thing prepared me for it. So I grew up. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like my brother. My brother knew he wanted to be a pilot since he was 4 years old, right? So it was easy for him. Me, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and so I got in a little bit of trouble as 17-year-old, 18-year-old. I ended up getting so many speeding tickets and losing my license. Bought a case of beer, right, when my brother's ID got caught. So they took my license for 6 months, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna join the Marines. Well, I didn't even know I was gonna join the Marines. I said, I'm going into the military. So I had my friend drive me to the recruiter's office, and I walked in first door. I said, who has the longest boot camp? And the guy looks up from his paper and he says, Marines, third door on the left. So went to the third door on the left, walked in. I said, I hear you have the longest boot camp. Yeah, we do. What do you want to do? I said, the toughest job you have. He said, okay, infantry. And I was gone 2 months. 2 months later, I was on a bus, and I'll never forget it. They started screaming at me like the second I got off the plane, in the airport, right? So, you get around the bus and
and yet, wait, you did this just to give you a shot because you were like I'm not even responsible enough. So you're like, might as well go in a place that's hard for me and that has rules.
yes,
So
yeah.
wow,
You know what?
wow.
I figured I need a life change.
You're like, fuck
because
it. Train me.
if I don't do it, what the hell else am I going to do? You know what I mean? So
Exactly. Love that shit.
I wanted, and I wanted all of it though. You know what I mean? I wanted it. I just everything you could give me, I want it. And they did. They came through. Let me tell you. So you're getting screamed at on a bus. And I'll never forget. It was in Beaufort, South Carolina, and the guy sitting next to me, he wouldn't stop talking, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, this guy, he's a pain in the ass. He won't stop talking, right? So we get off the bus, and you go stand in the yellow footprints, right? I don't know if you ever heard about the yellow footprints at Paris Island, right?
No, I never did.
They got them all lined up. So you get off the bus and you got to stand in the footprints, and they form you up, and they don't stop screaming at you, and you go into the receiving building. And I'll never forget it, because above the door, it says, through this portal shall pass the world's fiercest fighting force. All right. And I saw that, and right then and there, I said to myself, the only way I'm leaving this island is a Marine or dead,
Wow.
Because the weekend before I even left for boot camp, I had a big fight with my father. He's like, I don't think you have it in you. I don't want you to embarrass me, and I was like, you know what, to this day, that's still, that hit me right, right in my heart, But, so I was in boot camp. Everything was going pretty good. I had a girlfriend at the time too, I had joined the reserves, right? Which was a big mistake, honestly. Looking back now, that was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. I should have went full time, because I just loved the structure of it, and and boot camp was insane. It was like organized chaos, if that makes any sense. Because every single thing they do, there's a reason for it, right? And of course, you don't know what the reason is, but so we're going through boot camp, and I had a pass to make a phone call, to call my parents, because they were supposed to come drive down from New Jersey, after I graduated boot camp, and drive me home. But since I was in reserves, I had to report to my duty station the next morning. So I had to fly home, right? So I had this pass to make a phone call because, in Marine Corps boot camp, you can't make phone calls, you can't watch TV, you're cut off, And
Wow.
so I remember walking back from like a dentist appointment or something, and I happened to pass the mess hall, and nobody was around, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to make that call now. But I didn't call my parents. I called my girlfriend, because I hadn't got a letter in 5 weeks, right? So, her little sister answers the phone, and I'm talking to her. She's like 5 years old, and she says to me, "Why are you calling? Debbie has a new boyfriend now, right?" I'm like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "What's his name?" "Oh, Richie." Richie was like my best friend, right? I'm like, "Oh man," right?
Wow.
So her mother gets on the phone, and we're talking, and she's trying to get her daughter on the phone. She won't get on the phone, So she finally gets on the phone, and it tells me, or she tells me, and hangs up, right? I don't want to say if she told me because I don't want to cut it out. But I got the message, right?
Wow.
So, and this is important because this started me off in my life. So I'm walking back to my barracks, and I'm kind of like, it's like getting kicked in the nuts and punched in the face at the same time,
Absolutely.
And you're there, and you're cut off from the world, which makes it a million times worse, So I didn't get the Dear John letter. I got the Dear John phone call, right? So I walk in, and now my bunkie, the dude who was in the top bunk, happened to be that pain in the ass on the bus next to me, right?
Wow.
It's funny because when they shave your heads, you don't know who anybody is.
Yeah, you don't recognize it anymore.
What a great guy, though. But he takes one look at me, and he's like, what the hell happened to you? And I told him a story, and he's like, dude, you better get your shit together, So he got together with a couple friends of mine, and they came and they gave me this ultimatum, right? And it was, you have till the morning to get your shit together, or we're gonna beat your brains in. We're gonna take you in a shower and beat your brains in, right? And because they're like, if the drill instructors find out, you're dead, And they were right, you know what I mean? So I pushed it down really deep, right? And
they don't want somebody emotional. Is that it?
Well, they don't want me to be not on my game, right?
Okay.
And zoned out or anything, because the drill instructors will pick up on that, man, and they'll just eat you alive, right? And so. Yeah, and like I said, so I pushed it down deep, right? And that's the moment in my life. I can look back now and say that, that's the moment that, like, I actually became like hardcore, right? Where, it's easy to say like I didn't give a shit about anything anymore, but that wasn't it. I was just on a mission. Whatever I did, like, I gave it 100%, and whatever happened, right? Because it was like I was free almost. I was, I was free to just go all out, right? So, and looking back again, that's the beginning of what molded me to who I am today, right? And it's funny because, like, in Marine Corps drill instructors are hilarious, So my senior drill instructor, all he cared about was like drill and ceremony, like with the rifle and all the the trick moves and everything, right? And so I was made a squad leader, and he fired me because he said I marched like a duck because I'm bow-legged, right? But the other drill instructors kind of liked me, so they made me king of the land of the midgets, right? Because they said This is great because I was the tallest, shortest person in the platoon. So anybody shorter than me, I was in charge of. So whenever they like fucked something up, I had to pay. Right. So I was the king of the land of the midgets. I loved it though, because it was great, So, I got out of boot camp and I started working construction and, it was a great job. I was in the heavy laborers union,
Okay.
so doing like jackhammering and on the
Okay.
highways and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I loved it. We were getting at that time, the money was great. Yeah, I was always sent out with my best friend. We always worked together. So, everything was going great, but I knew that I didn't want to be doing that when I was 55 years old, So I heard that the sheriff's department was hiring temporary workers, non-union, like per diem, per day, right?
Okay.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to go ask for a job. I got nothing to lose, And meanwhile, I'll take the test and see if I can come off the list, right? I knew I couldn't go for, be a cop for a police department because I had so many points on my license. I had 22 points on my driver's license, So there's no way, So I got out of work early, like around 4:00, and the sheriff's office was like 2 blocks from the office at a construction company. So I went there to make an appointment to see the sheriff. So, I'm covered in cement dust. I just got done working, right? And I walk in the sheriff's office and I'm talking to his secretary and I said, I'd like to make an appointment to see the sheriff.
Probably
Like,
cement
okay,
falling on the ground at the same time.
Yeah, right. It's all my pockets, my ears,
For sure,
right? It's
for sure.
horrible, So, so as she's talking to me, the sheriff, I didn't realize he was in his office and the door was open. And he says, who is that? What does he want? And she tells him, yeah, someone's here. They want a job in a jail. Send them in, right? So I walk in there looking like, right? And I explained to him, I just got a Marine Corps boot camp, and I want to start in law enforcement, and if you can give me a job. He's like, okay, I'll take a chance on you, but the per diems that I hire, they have to do double shifts every day. And he said, whether we need them or not, you have to stay 16 hours.
Wow.
And I was like, sure, okay, great. It's like a foot in the door, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't realize what I was getting into though. Here I am, like I said, I came from a small rural town, and now here I am in the city. Again, it's the third largest city in Patterson, and it's a rough county jail, and so I started there, and 16 hours, it was tough, but they did that because they wanted to see how bad you wanted the job,
Okay, yeah. So it was a test.
It was a test, and a lot of guys didn't make it, because it could wear you down. Absolutely. But I wasn't married at the time, and so what did I have to lose, really, And so I did it for 9 months before I came off the list, and I became a permanent officer. Wow. And I remember that day, like they handed me my badge, and I'm like, I don't have to do doubles anymore. They're like, no. I'm like, what about tonight? I don't have to work second shift. They're like, no, man, you're free. I'm like, oh, it was like, it was amazing. Just that feeling of not having to do 16 hours a day.
When you're used to 9 months straight of this, it's unimaginable.
Yeah. And it's like, we worked 4 days on, 2 days off,
Wow.
So, I mean, at least I was lucky enough to have first and second shift, I didn't have to do the midnight tour, which is brutal. So, I started in the jail, and they waited 2 years to send you to the police academy. Okay. Because the turnover rate was so high, they didn't want to invest the money in you, if you were just going to quit or go work somewhere else, So after like 2 years, I got sent to the Corrections Officer Academy, right? And
okay.
I knew though, so I didn't have any family members in law enforcement. I didn't know anybody there. So my only shot out of the jail was to get somehow recognized, otherwise just a name or a face in the crowd,
Yeah.
So I knew I had to just go all out, and that's kind of what I did. Like I went in the basement of my house and I set up a table, and I would get out of the academy. I'd study. I'd shine my shoes. I'd go to my uniform, and this was like every day. But I knew that I was going to end up going to the corrections academy, so I had started running about a year prior. So I was in good shape, so I didn't have to worry about that. And they made me a squad leader, and then I was also the vice president of the class, right?
Wow.
But I knew though that I had to kick ass in this academy. It was my only shot out of that jail, and because don't get me wrong, like it was a really great job, and but still, like it's not on patrol. Like you're locked in, it's you feel like you're doing time yourself,
Exactly.
You know what I mean, right? So
Yeah, because my neighbor's daughter does exactly that, and we talked about this exactly this week. And her other daughter works in with babies and kids, and the other one with inmates. And she's like, I feel like I'm doing time as much as them.
right,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
and so I just went and I just gave it everything I had. I made me believe I was in boot camp again, and that hardcore mentality.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing really, really well. I won 4 out of 5 awards at the end, right? And the only award I didn't win is the one that like the class votes on.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, the popular vote by the own. Yeah.
And me, I was a team player, but I was on a mission,
Yeah.
So it wasn't, and the guy who won it, actually, his father was the PBA president, so he kind of knew, like he had that gift of gab, right, But so I ended up winning the academic award, the physical fitness award, the range high shooter, and distinguished graduate, right?
Wow.
So
That's
now,
awesome.
like, yeah,
because how many people were in that class that you outplayed technically?
there's around 42, I think.
Wow, that's impressive. Let's go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but I was like, I was on a mission, man.
Yeah, but others too maybe in there, but you were just on fire, though. Wow.
Yeah. I to me, I feel bad because like a lot of these guys had families, and so they have to come home and change diapers and all. And I had none of that, So, but it's a tradition in law enforcement where if you have a family member, they can put their uniform on, even if they're retired, and stand up on the stage and hand you your awards or your certificate, and I didn't have anybody, right? So the person giving me my my awards and stuff was actually the sheriff, so here I am, he's handing me every award, and it was a surprise to me also. Like nobody knew who was getting the award.
Yeah.
They kept it really quiet. So I graduated. I went back to the jail, working in jail, and they immediately reassigned me. They put me on uniform transportation, which was you're in a patrol car, and you're driving the inmates like wherever they have to go. Like sometimes they have to go to a specialized doctor's appointment, or sometimes you're transferring them to a state prison somewhere, or picking them up, vice versa, right?
And those jobs are very dangerous because that's the moment of escape of all.
Yeah, exactly.
So
right?
It's a stressful moment for you for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is because if somebody escapes, you're automatically fired. They don't even
for sure.
want to hear it, and not only that, like depending on how they escape, it's really, really dangerous, So you have a partner, and and I was lucky enough that the partner I had was just an awesome guy. I met him like the third or fourth day I was working in the jail, right? No, I'm sorry, it was like 2 weeks. And they had assigned me to the first floor with the that's where, like, in the mornings you get the inmates out and you got to get them in the vans. They're all going to court, and it's just a really chaotic. So I don't know what's going on. Like, I have no idea. Like, I'm just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so what happens is, like, the court officers, they pull in with their vans, right? And there's like a hallway, and you have holding cells, and you open them up, and the inmates come out. You tell them, put your hands on a wall. We pat them down, then the court officers come and they shackle them up and they take them, right? So again, I have no idea what's going on. So I'm just basically there watching at this point, and my friend, who I didn't know at the time, he opens the door, inmates come out, he tells everybody to put their hands on a wall. Everybody does, except one big dude. He's not doing it. He doesn't want to, he's not going along with the program, right? So, my friend says, hey, you know what? Turn around, put your hands on a wall, The guy's like, go fuck yourself, and so he goes to physically turn him around.
Yeah.
The guy takes a swing at him. So now it's on, right? We have like 25 inmates on the wall. All the court officers, they just take a step backwards. They're just like,
this is not our problem.
Yeah, we didn't sign up for this. You know what I mean? And I have no idea what's going on. So I just jump on the pile, and we're fighting, punching, kicking, and finally, the boys come out. You know what I mean? They come running out. We get everything under control. Everybody gets off the court and everything. And I'm walking in a hallway probably about half hour later, and so my friend, who I didn't know at the time, again, he's like, hey, come here, man. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, who are you? And I said, I'm Gary. I just started working here. He's like, you punched me in the face. I said, man. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't.
That's a good start of a relationship,
right? He goes, you're a crazy motherfucker, but I like you. He says, you know what? You stick with me. We're going to be all right. I said, all right. So I did. I stuck with him. I did. And he taught me, the ropes, really, he was from the city. I was, you know what I mean? Like, so, when we graduated the academy, I ended up being partnered up with him. So it was great, and, but 8 months later, I got my orders. I was going back to the police academy. The sheriff was sending me back to the police academy, along with my partner, Jose was his name, right? So, which was like fantastic, because now there's like a 90% chance that after the police academy that we're going to go on the road. We're getting the hell out of the jail. So the sheriff liked to take guys from the jail and cross-train them, okay? Because, like, we had the title of corrections officer.
Yeah.
The guys in the courthouse, they were sheriff's officers.
Okay.
So they automatically go to the police academy, where we go to the corrections academy. But the sheriff liked taking guys out of the jail and then sending them back to the police academy and putting them on a road. He did this for a couple of reasons. Like, number one, he liked the guys in the jail because we weren't crybabies. We knew that we weren't entitled to anything, and we were just grateful to be out of that jail,
Absolutely.
So we weren't going to screw around, like, we were going to do our job, and because we don't want to go back to the jail. He's always got that, that's the thing. He's got his thumb on you at all times because, you screw something up or you got a bad attitude, you're handing, within an hour, you're handing out bologna sandwiches in the jail. You know what I mean? Like, it's devastating, So that, and the guys in the courthouse just hated that, So there's always that friction, right? But too bad, I'm not, staying in jail. So we ended up graduating, and we got sent to patrol, right? Me, my partner, and his twin brother. right? Jose and Laz. Like people couldn't tell them apart, right? And they were just the funniest, craziest guys I've ever met in my life. You know what I mean? Like they're like family to me, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, so but before I got to the police, I was a commercial diver. I got certified in California,
Okay.
and it was, as soon as I got out of boot camp, I went to school out in Long Beach, California, to get my commercial diver's license. So they had put me on the dive team prior to me going to the police academy, you know, because the sheriff's emergency response team, you know, was corrections officers and police officers together. So I was already on the dive team. So while I was in the academy, like 2 weeks before he graduated, I got called out on a call for a night ice dive, right? And
Wow.
and it's that picture on the wall. I don't know if you can see it. You see, there it is. That
Okay,
picture
there
right
you go.
there.
Okay, yeah.
That's the dive, right? So, some teenager fell through the ice in the Passaic River. So there was only two guys on the team that had ever done a night dive, and there's only again two people that have ever done an ice dive, right? So, and I never did a night ice dive, but they figured, you know what? I'm a commercial diver. The other guy wasn't. They called me in for it, and I was still in the police academy at the time. So I just remember coming in the morning. You know, I didn't sleep at all, and getting screamed at, you know, by the director of the academy, and I'm like, what are you screaming at me for? You know, here's the numbers of my captain. You know, call him. You know, at the end of the day, I work for them, not you. You know, so you know, they were pissed off, but whatever.
Why were they that agitated?
Because they first of all, they hated the sheriff's department.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Because we're a big department and they feel like, you know, we were encroaching on their territory. But
When us as civilians think that like they would get along, all of them, but actually there's rivalry somewhere.
Yeah. And
Wow.
it's not the rank and file guys. We don't care, you know,
Yeah.
because if you're getting your ass kicked on the side of the road, you don't care who's coming to save you, you know, like you know what I mean? So
Yeah, for
the
sure.
more the merrier, right?
Mhm.
So and we had, you know, county-wide jurisdiction. We can go wherever we wanted, you know, which was great, you know. So, you know, they were pissed off about that. And it was just politics, really, you know.
Wow.
But we ended up graduating 2 weeks later, and we got our orders, right, you know, right after graduation. The other sheriff gave us our orders, and, you know, 3 of us went to patrol, and the other 7 guys went to the courthouse. They were from the courthouse, so they just went back, you know, and they were pissed, obviously, because, you know, we're coming out of the jail and going right to patrol. But, you know, too bad. What am I going to say? No, give a damn. Right?
You guys worked your part to get where you were, so
Yeah, and but so the thing was, like, so we got our orders, and we graduated on a Friday night, and so the city of Patterson, where the sheriff's department's headquarters were, was just erupting in riots, right? Because the Patterson Police Department, one of the guys was chasing down a suspect, and the guy went to climb a fence, and the police officer had his weapon out, and when he went to grab him, you know,
you shot him.
blew the back of his head right off, you know.
Oh,
and
shit.
It was horrible, man. And I felt terrible for the guy, but man, you know, like it's one of those things, right? You know, and so the city was just blowing up. So you know, usually you would graduate on a Friday night and start work on Monday. You know, we got assigned that the next day. We had to go in, and we were assigned to the task force, which was so we rolled. There was 3 in a car. 10 cars was one group, right?
Okay.
We had 3 groups like that. And you know, we just And again, we're right out of the police academy. We don't know what we're
Yeah.
doing. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just like, okay, we're just a body, really, you know. But it was a it was a it was crazy. I mean, it ended up just being like a street brawl. That's really what it was. Like we didn't arrest anybody, you know, because we couldn't. Because if we arrested somebody, that would take one of the officers off the street, you know, with processing them and the whole 9 yards. So we just rolled around like
Like
fighting
Training
people.
Day, like the movie
Yeah,
Training Day.
yeah, it was crazy, and chasing guys down, and you know, I remember like a couple of the sergeants that were with us. They had these like fire hydrant size cans of OC spray, you know, like mace.
Okay,
And
wow.
yeah, they use them in the jail in case there's a
Yeah.
riot, right? So, you know, at one point in the night, you know, everybody got tired, right? And so like we would just roll up on a corner and just spray the whole corner down, you know, and just keep going, right? You know, and, you know, no reports, no arrests, right? But you know, like they got the message, like we kind of
That's the message, I think.
right, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
by overwhelming force, you know, we kind of calmed it all down, and you know, so after 2 nights, there was a big protest out in front of City Hall. So we all got called to go put, you know, a riot gear on and stand on a riot line, you know, and so you know we formed a line in front of City Hall, and but we had about 150 guys in the parking garage behind the building, right? So at any minute they just had to give the word, and those guys were coming out, and it was over, you know. But they didn't have to, you know, because like I understand, and everybody understood the reason for the protests. You know what I mean? Like, of course, right? You know, but you can't go running around robbing the stores and you know, just you know, you protest all you want. You know, we don't care. You know, we agree with you. Really, I mean, it was a bad shoot. You know, and I hate to say that, but it was. You know, accidents happen, man. You know, no cop that I know or detective wants to go to work and shoot somebody. You know, it is just it ruins your life, man. You know what I mean? It's just a horrible thing. You know, so you know, so eventually, you know, a couple days, everything calmed down, and so I started my patrol, you know, journey, right, and which was great. You know, we had the whole county, you know, but the sheriff liked to start us right in the city, you know, the worst part of it. And that's where we kind of learned really what was going on. Fact, right? So after about, you know, maybe 6 months, I walk into headquarters, and the motorcycle division sergeant is standing there. And this guy's like 6'4". He's a giant. And I just walk in. I never met him. He never met me. And he looks at me and he says, "Do you have your motorcycle license?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You want to be on a motorcycle squad?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "All right, starting tomorrow, you're on a motorcycle squad." Right. So I ended up telling my partner, I'm like, "Hey, this guy's looking, you know." And so he walks in, you know, maybe about an hour later, the guy says the same thing, but he doesn't have a motorcycle license. He tells him he does, you know. So next thing you know, we're on a motorcycle squad, right? And I was a pretty good rider, but my partner, like, he never rode a bike before in his life. So it was a learning curve for him, you know. He ended up having to go get his license.
Absolutely.
He took his test on a scooter, right? On a scooter, right? How embarrassing. But he got it, and you know, I spent the next 10 years, you know, on squad. It was the best job I ever had, was motorcycle squad.
Wouldn't you feel more safe in a squad car than the motorcycle?
Yeah, definitely. But just being on the bike all day, you know, always riding with the same partner, it was fantastic, you know. And we always kind of stayed in the area of each other. There was 10 guys, full-time riders, and there was another 10 part-time riders that would come in and out. But man, it was great though. We got so good at riding that like it was like a part of your body. We go up on the sidewalks. We had gull wings at the time, right? And nobody ever used gull wings for police work, but they were just so comfortable to ride. And once you got used to riding that bike, man, you could do amazing things with it, but like the Patterson Police Motorcycle Squad, they all had Harleys, right? And we worked with them like every week. We were working with them doing something, and we always heard about Harleys and this and like whatever, and all I know is my bike. I had radio on it, AM, FM. I could put a tape in it. It blew heat.
Wow.
When it got colder out,
Damn.
and mine, it actually had a reverse on it. So when I had to, pull the thing in, because I'm only like 5'6", I barely put 2 feet on the ground on this thing, right? And so it was just an awesome bike, and we usually worked in the inner city, but maybe like once every 2 weeks we'd go up and drive through the country, in the upper part of the county, and we'd run radar up there, which we never gave tickets out, like we would just go up there, give people warnings all day long, they loved it, So and then I got transferred to, detective and then narcotics. And that's how I ended up being assigned to the DEA.
So you literally like touched almost every field in the.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, now you're here. Now you're here. Now
Right.
You're going to do this. Wow. You really touched a lot of parts of the police work. That's incredible.
I did. There's one thing though, like, so everything was going great on the bikes.
Yeah.
But our sergeant kind of lost his mind. He had these visions of becoming like chief of patrol or whatever. So he really started like just being unbearable, So me and my partner decided to actually quit the department and go work in the small town that I grew up in, right? We got to know the chief pretty well because we would always ride through there like every couple of weeks. And, so he told us that he needed 2 guys, and we took the test and we came 1 and 2. So we got hired, and, my partner stayed there probably about, I don't know, like he stayed on patrol for about 3 years there. I got promoted to detective after about 8 months, right?
Wow.
But he went back to the sheriff's department because his friend became the sheriff.
Nice.
The old guy was out and the new guy came in, and I got a call, maybe like 4 months in, hey, you want to come back? We're looking for somebody for this special narcotics unit, and we don't want to just pick anybody. We only want people that we can trust, and I was like, yeah, hell yeah,
because you can't have a crackhead as a DEA agent because there's going to be some missing drugs somewhere.
Yeah, not only that too, like you're going to be doing like a lot of wild stuff, and everybody's got to kind of be on board with watching each other's backs, because we're going to be working with a lot of other departments also, and like we don't know them, right? So it's kind of like you only trust your guys, man,
Yeah.
So I went to my chief and I told him, hey, look, I got this opportunity. Would you sign off and let me transfer back? And he's like, yeah, like I hate to see you go, but he understood. He signed off, and which I would have went anyway, but without his blessing, I wouldn't have civil service protection, which is really pretty important, especially,
Can you explain that a bit for people that don't understand what that is?
Yeah. So civil service protection, it's like there's a lot of rules that the employer has to follow. Like they can't do certain things, and you have a lot of backing, right? If your boss has you do stuff that you're not supposed to be doing,
he'll protect you.
Yeah, call the civil service board and they'll get involved, right? So it was important to have it, so especially where I was going, I needed all the protection. I knew it was going
Yeah,
to be
for
crazy,
sure.
So, I went back and I started working with this unit, and they also assigned me to the prosecutor's office, narcotics and gang task force. So we were working like both sides of like we were doing state cases, and then we were also doing federal cases. So if we had a job that, say, the DEA didn't want, right,
Mm.
for whatever reason, it could be
Yeah, yeah.
anything. Maybe they didn't like it, or we could take it to like the prosecutor's office, and they'll take it. So it was great too, because that made us like ghosts. Whenever there was something going on at the DEA that we didn't want to get involved in, we would tell them, no, listen, we got to work for the prosecutor's office. And whenever the prosecutor's office is doing something that we would say, no, we can't, we're with the DEA. So we were right in that gray area, right in the middle.
Wow. Okay.
And it was like, which kind of meant we really had no supervision, and which is good and bad, right? Because if something goes wrong, you're out there all,
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but it's great too, as long as we're producing and bringing in like cases, good cases. And see, because like your bosses, all they want to do is take pictures with piles of drugs and money, right? That's all
Yeah,
they
yeah.
care about. They don't care how you did it. They don't want to know, and they don't care if you take 2 weeks off after they took their picture with the pile of drugs. They, go relax, go do your thing, just as long as it keeps coming in, right? So as long as you're working, you're fine, right?
Mm.
And we were doing big cases like 400 kilos of coke, 200 kilos of coke. We hit a heroin mill. Actually, like my third day there, we hit a heroin mill, and so one of the trucks outside had 12 kilos of heroin. Another truck had 8 kilos of heroin. And, we followed a guy in his car go from the place we hit to the next town over. And he came out with a bag, drove away. We boxed him in. He's got like 64 grand in a bag, in a hidden compartment, a trap, where like, I don't know. I think this one you had to turn the radio on, then hit the right side mirror button, and then it would open up like something
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
You never figure it out, unless you sort of wire. But they're so good at it, you don't see the wire.
Mm-hmm.
So but he opened it up for us. We go back to the apartment, and the DEA guys didn't want nothing to do with it. They're like, well, you don't have a warrant, you can't go in there, and we're like, yeah, but we can't just walk away. We can't just leave the. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so we told them go stand out by the cars. We'll take care of it. And which they don't mind, because that's what we're there for, right? That we're really assigned to the DEA to do like the dirty work, really. Like, because they can just say, oh, we didn't know what they were doing, and they leave you hanging out to dry. But we knew that that's how they were. So we told them to stand by the car, and so we go up to the door, and we need a warrant. You know what I mean? Like, what are we gonna, And we're thinking like, all right, how are we gonna get in here, really? So all of a sudden, like, we hear something in the apartment. We hear people talking, and we're like, all right, we got to go in now, because they're going to be disposing evidence, right? So we kick the door in, and we go in there, and it's a parrot, right? It wasn't even a person; it was a parrot squawking,
Wow.
right? So we're sitting there, and like, they got all these empty bags of the glassine envelopes that they package the heroin in,
Okay.
right? And we're like, my buddy Jose, he throws like a bundle of it to me, and I catch it, and whatever. We're just and I stop and I look at it, and I'm like, hey, Jose, these aren't empty, man. These are full. He's like, no way. And he starts to look. 18,000 bags of heroin, right? That they were
Oh
going to
my
walk
God.
away and leave in the apartment, right?
No shit.
18,000 bags. I have it on my wall up there. It's this side actually. I don't even know that side, but
Wow.
so it, again, so that's kind of what we were there for, right? Just to get in and do the dirty work, and it was going great. We were doing a lot of big jobs. And
What did you think was the most challenging part of being a detective right then and there, the narcotic detective? What was challenging for you?
maneuvering through the system,
Mm. By the
um,
rules, like?
yeah, because like they had their own set of rules that
Yeah,
we had
yeah.
to now follow, right? And we had our rules that we had to follow.
That's it.
And again, we're outsiders, Um, even though we're assigned to a task force, we have 2 DEA agents assigned to us, and we were fortunate enough that the other 8 guys on that squad were from my department, the sheriff's department, right? Like the other groups, you have 2 DEA agents, and you may have, 1 guy's from one department, 2 guys are from another department. Like there's a big mix of departments, and that could be a problem, right? Because when you do like big jobs, and you combine groups, right? Now that's a problem because
Mm.
you hit a house, there 800 grand sitting in a house in boxes, right? Heat sealed, like the heat sealers that they do for like meat and you freeze
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, they're heat sealing money in $100,000, little heat
Squares.
seal things, stacking them up, right? And like, so me and my partner and another, because we rolled with threes, right? We like 3 of us were partners,
Yeah.
right? So whenever we weren't in our separate cars, we were in one car, 3 of us, right? And we all had, undercover cars, with hidden lights and everything, you couldn't tell. So, we had this little pact that when we did big jobs like that with other groups, we would, be the first ones to hit the door, get in the house, make sure it's clear, get the bad guy, cuff him, get him in the car, and then kind of like roll out and get him back to the process wherever we're going to process him. Just because I don't want to be responsible. If somebody does something stupid, I don't want none. I don't want to. It's very tempting, when you got all that money and I can't control
Absolutely.
other people. So we decided that we would just get it and go, and it worked for us.
Because it takes
So
one guy that's greedy, and because you don't know the count, you don't even know if there's money in there before going. So let's say you arrive in there. Well, a lot of people won't steal in their life until they see $100,000 for the first time, and they're like, maybe 50 G's here won't show. So
right,
that's a smart move to make sure your team is clean.
yeah, and like because
Jealousy
it's
makes people do crazy shit.
yeah, and again, you could just reach in and grab a bundle of money, shove it down your pants. You got 10 grand in your underwear.
That's
You know what I
it.
mean? Like,
That's it.
but the thing was that like, hey, I don't want to go to federal prison, man. You know what I'm saying?
I don't
Like,
want to go back to prison.
I worked in a jail, man. I don't, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go there, So and I think that was another reason why the sheriff did that, because he gave you a taste of what the jail was like, and then he put you out on the street, and I'm telling you that any temptation you had, you just
Wow.
you
Yeah.
just you
True.
remember that smell of the
Yeah.
jail, and
Yeah.
you're like,
Wow.
oh hell no,
I never
like
thought
no,
about that. Yeah. That makes sense. Wow. Yeah.
yeah, so but again, we're working with a lot of people, and a lot of people didn't have that opportunity, to suffer in the jail like
Yeah.
that, right?
To learn
So
the
again,
real rough jobs.
yeah, so we got the hell out of there, and everything was going great, Um, we had full credentials too, like we could go anywhere, like
Hmm.
um, it was a great assignment, and you got to figure there was 10 of us out of 1,000, right? People in my department, right? So it was like a big honor too to to be sent out and assigned there, So and everything's going great, and So you remember you brought up the movie Training Day, right?
Yeah.
With Denzel Washington. And there's a lot of things about that movie that are really, really accurate, and for example, so you remember when he called the rest of the squad and they all came, like one guy was wearing a suit, one guy was, right? Because they were all doing something, right? That's how we rolled, right? Like you'd go to work and we'd all eat breakfast together and then we'd disappear. Like I'd go my way, everybody go their way, because we were all working cases, and whoever's case started to heat up, then all of a sudden you make the call and then everybody would come to work that case. So you get guys in shorts, you get guys in suit, one guy could be in court and get the call. He's in a suit. One guy can be hanging out by his pool, and boom, he's there. So that's accurate, and so we got a call that there was a guy coming up from Virginia to pick up a load of coke. Okay, so we checked the registers of a hotel. Have you ever been in New York City?
No, not yet.
Okay, so right across the bridge, you go across the bridge, you take a left, you're in Washington Heights, and at that time, that was a big money laundering area, right? And so they wouldn't keep the money there though, right? So they would go and buy these like duplexes or houses right across the bridge, and like there's a couple towns, Palisades Park, Fort Lee, very expensive, right? So they buy them and they would just keep their money there, right? No furniture, nothing, just boxes of money, right? And we'd go on surveillance and we'd be sitting there doing surveillance, and there's always that one neighbor, right, knocking on a window. What are you doing? Oh, so you lie to him once, you lie to him twice, and finally, it's like, all right, we got to do something here. But he notices us, but he doesn't notice that his neighbor is a money launderer.
Yeah.
Because the lawn gets cut and there's never any party, so it's quiet. So he's such a great neighbor. Yeah,
exactly.
Right. You know what I mean? Like this is cartel level stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The guy's not even in the expensive place. He is just for the money.
It's for the money. It's $750,000 duplex just to store boxes of money. So it's just funny though, right? So we check the registers in the hotels close to the bridge. We find this guy. He's registered to this one hotel. He paid cash, and we know when he's checking out. So this is like the second day of our surveillance, right? So it's a Friday in the summer, and so we know that he's not going to pick up a load of coke on a Friday. He's with his girlfriend too, and sit on a load of coke over the weekend and then drive down to Virginia on Monday. That's just not going to happen. He's got to worry about getting robbed by everybody, drug dealers, just anybody,
Mm-hmm.
So he would pick that load up and just hit the turnpike and go, right? And the New Jersey State Police, they call the turnpike the Black Dragon, right? Because it's known just boom, it's just
between New York and New Jersey.
Yeah, or from Florida to New York, right?
Okay, yeah.
And it's either way, either direction, you're going to get it, right?
Yeah.
So I call up my sergeant and I'm like, hey, listen, there's another thing too, though. So in the summertime, like we used to call it Federal Fridays, right? Which, if there's nothing really crazy going on, you wrap up what you're doing, by 12 o'clock, and we'd all meet in a bar at like 2 for happy hour. And, it was just great. We do it every Friday, it's a lot of fun, right? And so we call it Federal Fridays. So it's like a holiday. So I called up my sergeant. I'm like, hey, Kevin, what are we doing? Let's get out of here. Let's leave a couple of guys just to monitor, see what's going on, and let's go. He's like, let's give it one more hour. I'm like, oh, okay. So in that hour though, like, we're doing surveillance.
So you're
I'm
just
parked.
checking cameras right there at that moment?
No, we're following the guy around. It's a mobile
Okay.
surveillance, right?
Okay.
So
Okay. So you're following him.
he's driving. We got 10 cars now, right? So
Yeah.
he's driving like from bodega to bodega, and he's not really doing nothing. He'd go to one bodega, come out with a little bag, talk on a cell phone, park, and just going back and forth. Guys are getting antsy too, and I tell my sergeant, like, listen, it's only a matter of time before somebody makes a mistake, and this guy knows that he's hot. You know what I mean? Like, so we really should just break off, and just come back Sunday. That's when he's going to be doing his stuff, Again, we got the one more hour, right? So I'm sitting in Washington Heights, and I'm parked. Everybody's parked somewhere watching this guy's car, right? Like, I can see like the back passenger side tire and the trunk, right? Somebody has got the front.
Yeah.
They can see
Just
it's
pieces of it.
covered.
Yeah, because you guys are hidden as well.
Yeah, and I got some junkie next to my car. He's arguing with my tire. You know what I mean? Like, it's like crazy, right? So, but the whole mood changed though, right? Like you could feel it, right? And I could feel it anyway. And I'm very sensitive to stuff like that. So, like my lieutenant would always say to me that, like my antennas like go out further than other people's, So he always wanted me around, because
You're aware.
I'm aware. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the hair on the back of my neck stands
Yeah.
up. You just get that feeling, man. And back then I never thought about what that was, right? I never really thought too deep about really anything. It was just a matter of, we were young, we were in great shape, and we were just having a time of our life. We were playing cops and robbers, really.
Yeah.
And it's great, but it's for real now, And like I said, we really didn't have a lot of supervision. So I'm sitting out there and I'm like, man, I just feel like I'm sticking out like a sore thumb here, like it's just, and I got that feeling, man. And it bothered me enough where I called my brother up and I just started talking to him. And I'm like, yeah, like it just doesn't feel right,
Wow.
Like something bad's gonna happen today. I don't know what, man, but I know I shouldn't be here,
What did he think about that call?
He was like, yeah, well, break off. And I'm like, nah, I can't, like, I mean, I could have, but I just, it's not me, man. You know,
Too loyal
like,
to the job for sure.
Yeah. And then, cause like, if I leave, right, then I'm shorting these other guys. Who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly.
It's always about, it's always about the guys you're working with too, though. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
yeah, because it's like that person that's in your car, he's supposed to take a bullet for you as much as the inverse. So you're supposed to trust them. So you leaving, you would have maybe in your mind the whole time, if something did happen, to blame yourself after. So you're like, fuck it, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to help these guys out.
Yeah. And it's like, again, because you really don't care about, yeah, okay, great. We got a lot of drugs. Whatever, I mean, there's going to be more drugs tomorrow and there's more drugs the next day. It's never going to end. Right. So, not to change the subject, I'll get back to this because this is like the beginning of like the story. But so my partner, his brother, the twin, was also assigned to the DEA.
Okay.
But he was assigned to another office, right? So we were assigned to a satellite office, right in the city of Patterson, and his brother was in Newark, which is like the second largest city in New Jersey, right? But and we would always work together. So one time, his brother Laz, he was undercover and he was following this guy on foot, and he got on the train in the city, and I don't know the name of the train. There's a name for it, the one that's above ground, right?
Okay.
So he's on the train following this guy, and we lose communications with him, right? We can't get him on the phone. His radio's turned off. So, his brother is going to kill him. Like Jose's like, when I get him, I'm going to kill him because you know what? He knows better than that. And, but we weren't going to leave him. So we chased this train through the city. Okay. It's above us. We're underneath it. You know what I mean? Like we're going
Yeah.
through red lights. We're driving like, it was crazy, but it was a lot of fun, man. You know what I mean? Like it really, so when he ended up getting off the
You
train,
do that in video games for the fuck of it. Oh, that's
yeah,
incredible.
right. It was unbelievable, right? So we and as we're doing this, right? The funny thing is, like, so my partner looks at me and says, "Hey, they make movies about this stuff, right?" I'm like,
Exactly.
"Yeah, I never thought about that, right?" So we finally he gets off the train and we finally get to where he is, and now they're arguing like they're gonna kill each other, right? Because Jose's yelling at him like, better. You don't just turn your phone off, you know. And of course his brother's like, fuck you, whatever. So they're going at it. So Jose gets in the car. He's like, let's go. I'm like, what about your brother? He's like, fuck him. We'll find his own way home. We left him there right in the middle of the city, right? And, so we just drove away, left him there. He made it home, obviously. But so that's what it's about, though. Like, because you really get, your stomach goes in a knot when you lose like connection with somebody, or you hear over the radio that, there was an accident or something, like it gets to you, So I'm sitting there and the guy starts moving again, right? And so now my sergeant gets on the radio and he says, hey, if he goes towards the U-turn in Jersey, right, because right past his hotel is the U-turn, and so it's the Jones Road U-turn. He says, if he goes to the Jones Road U-turn, somebody's got to pull him over and ID him. Whoever is the lead vehicle on the surveillance needs to pull him over. And I'm like, we don't do that. We're in shorts. I got to cut off a sleeveless T-shirt on, right? I mean,
So the
really,
guy would know instantly that it's an undercover.
yeah,
Wow. So
100%,
that's
right?
like almost not good there. Wow.
Yeah, because number one, you're going to blow the case, right?
Yep.
Number two, it can make the guy panic, right? And so there's nothing good about it.
No.
Right? So yeah, we're going to lie to him and say, hey, we have a report of a stolen car. Obviously it's not you. Everything's, sorry to bother you. Have a nice day. See you later. Now, is he going to believe that? A lot of times they do. But you're taking a chance. It's a gamble, right? And so I called up my sergeant. I'm like, hey, Kevin, what are we doing? Like, you know better. Now I can talk to him like this because he's my friend.
Yeah.
I would never talk to him like this,
Yeah.
Except, one time
I caught on that. Yeah, for sure. I caught on that for sure.
I mean, if he wasn't my friend, I would just have to do what I'm told,
Yeah.
So, and I still out of respect, I'll do what I'm told. I may not agree with it, So, and I'm talking to him and he says, look, it's not my choice. It's not my call. So our boss, our group supervisor, who's sitting in a high-rise building in Newark, decided, because he's listening to the radio, he decides that, he wants this guy positively identified. Okay, well, so the sergeant, Kevin, he called the Fort Lee Police Department asking for a marked unit to pull him over to ID the guy. And usually it's not a problem, but they're all tied up. So they don't have one available. So we got to do it, right? Okay, we got to do it. What are you going to do, right? So, we could lie and say we did it, but, we're not going to do that because it is what it is, right? So he starts to head back to Jersey and he's going over to George Washington Bridge, and that is construction on the bridge. So, it's crazy, so like everybody gets lost, right? And I'm the only guy on the target now, right?
Okay.
So we get into Jersey, and of course he makes the U-turn. And as he's coming around right before he's about to get onto the highway, I hit my lights and I give a little chirp on my siren, just a little boop, and so he gets onto the highway and pulls right over onto the shoulder, right? All right, no big deal. I get out of my car, I take the badge, out, so the badge is hanging out from underneath my shirt.
Are you stressed at that moment?
No, it's just, it's a routine thing, like.
Yeah, maybe, but like he knows, like you're
It
in
could go bad.
undercover. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. You're not in a patrol car,
right.
so
Yeah, it could go bad. So I'm thinking that, hey, if it goes bad, it's not my fault. I'm just following orders. I'm not thinking that, it's going to get really hairy.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I walk up, I tell the guy who I am, you know, I tell him the spiel about the stolen car thing, and I ask for his driver's license, right? So he takes his driver's license, and I never forget this. He's got it in his right hand, right? And he goes to hand it to me, right? And as I go to grab it, he pulls it in. Now, right here is where the problem is. So maybe I'm complacent, maybe I'm whatever, but I make this huge rookie mistake. I reach into the car, okay? It's a big no-no. So I reach in, and as I reach in, I notice that his foot's on the brake, the car's in drive. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and with his left arm, he hooks my arm, and he punches the gas. And now we're going into the highway, and I'm trying to run, okay? Now, because I went to grab the license with my left hand to keep my weapon hand free, right? So he's got me hooked, and I'm trying to run to keep up as he's getting onto the highway, and I know that I can't keep up, obviously, right? But if I yank my arm out, which I could probably do, I'm going to fall and get run over by his back tires, right? So in my mind, the only choice I have, I dive into the car, right? So now I'm in, right?
Oh, didn't expect that one. Okay,
Yeah, right.
wow.
So I'm in the car now, and I'm on his lap basically, and my legs are like hanging out the window, okay? And as I look out the window, I see that he's going for the divider. Okay, he's going to crush me like a bug, right? So this is where it gets weird. I see that he's going he's in the middle lane. He's going towards the fast lane, and he's going to just scrape me along the divider and keep going, right? So all I hear in my brain is like a roar, man. Shoot him now. Bang, right? And I'm rolling down the highway now. I'm tumbling. Boom, 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 boom.
Because
right?
you shot him right there.
Yeah, I shot him.
Right in the face, or?
No, so I didn't know at this point. I didn't know, but the bullet in his chest, but on an angle. This guy was a big fat dude. He was really big.
Yeah.
So it hit him on an angle, and it went through his chest muscle and lodged in his elbow. Okay. Now he yanked that wheel, and that's what tossed me out. Right. So I'm just rolling down a fast lane, and when stuff like this happens, man, like time slows down.
Absolutely.
Right? You know what I'm feeling, that, right? So it's like, and you're hyper focused, man, right? And I think to myself, like, am I ever going to stop tumbling, right?
Rolling, yeah.
So I end up stopping. I come to a stop. I'm on my knees, and I still have my weapon in my hand, and I'm looking down.
You didn't drop the weapon.
No, I didn't drop it. So I got it in my hand, and I'm on like all fours, really. Like I'm on my knees with my hands down on the ground, and I look up, man, and I'm in a fast lane. There's a tractor trailer. It's bearing down on me, man. And again, like time slows down. In your mind, I guess it does. And I think to myself, like almost like a cartoon, like what's next, man? Is like a piano going to fall out of the sky and land on my head, right? And that's what I think. And at that moment, I get yanked out of the way, man. The truck goes by, right? So my partner, Big Lenny, had shown, because there's three of us now that me, Jose, and Big Lenny. So Big Lenny had shown up just as I was getting taken for the ride, right?
Wow.
Now,
so he saw that ride technically.
Yeah. And now he heard the gunshot though, but he didn't know if I got shot or if I fired my weapon, right? He had no idea. So, he drags me to the side of the road, to the shoulder, and, I'm bloodied up. I'm, I got a concussion, right? I'm all banged up. And he's like, man, are you all right? And I mean, I could barely get it out. I'm so mad, right? I'm just so fucking mad. And so he's like, are you all right? And I'm like, go get that motherfucker, you know? And so he jumps in his truck and he goes, right? And he starts chasing him. So I get up, I start limping to my car, which is probably about 60 yards up the shoulder, right? And I'm just in my own zone at this point, right? I got a concussion, I'm bleeding. Now I didn't realize that other members of the group had shown up, right? And so they stopped traffic because it's a crime scene now.
Yeah.
And I'm limping. I get to my car, right? And I'm talking to myself the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm pretty close to my car, and I say pretty loud. I mean, loud enough that someone could hear me. I say, I'm gonna kill that motherfucker, And I look, and again, I didn't realize that other people were there, and that traffic was stopped. And I looked right to my right, and traffic stopped dead. And there's a car right there with the windows rolled down. And there's like a typical family, father driving, mother in a passenger seat, and 2 kids in the back. And she's looking at me, and I look at her, and her eyes meet, and she's terrified, man. Like, because again, my badge got ripped off, right? So all she sees is some like bald lunatic walking up the highway with a gun in his hand, bleeding, talking to himself, right?
That he's gonna kill someone.
Yeah. I mean, I can laugh now because it's pretty funny, right? So, but that snaps me to attention right then and there. It brings me right back to like reality, man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I holster my weapon and I get in my car and I just start laughing because that's kind of funny. But
damn right.
Like, man, that adrenaline, like, and like, man, what a rush, right? And so I take off. I'm trying to get on a pursuit now, right?
Hey,
So,
not hospital, still pursuit.
Yeah, I'm trying to get on a pursuit, because like I'm thinking like I gotta
champ.
back Big Lenny up, right? So
Let's go.
I end up going to the upper level of the bridge. They had gone to the lower level, right? So now you gotta understand, like, all the radio traffic, chatter, I'm not hearing any of it, man. I'm in my own world, really. Because like again, like I bang my head and I'm just so focused on getting, So I'm driving and I don't like, where is everybody? Right. So finally, my phone rings and again, it like snaps me, and I'm like, hello? And it's my chief. He's like, where are you? I'm like, honestly, I don't know. I'm on Henry Hudson Parkway. And he's like, all right, you turn around and you need to come back. I'm like, I'm trying to get onto the pursuit. They're like, nope, they got him. Just come back. So what happened was Big Lenny chases this guy, and now another group member joins on the chase with him, right? And he gets down by the lower level before the toll booths, and this guy's not stopping, so he rams the car, right? And they're ordering the guy, get out of the car, right? With their guns out, a whole bit. They can't see inside because there's blood all over the windows, right? So they're like, they have no idea what's going on. The door opens a little bit and then closes, and then opens again and then closes. And they're like, they're about to start lighting this car up again.
For sure.
And what happens now, the door opens and the guy slumps out. He had lost so much blood, he couldn't undo his seatbelt. So that's what he couldn't get it undone. So he slumps out and they're like, oh man. So they stop the bleeding, not long enough for the paramedics to come and they saved his life, basically is what they did. And so I get back and my chief right away, he's like, he orders my sergeant to take me and Lenny to the hospital, right? So again, I'm like, I'm fine, but I'm not, man. Again, I'm road.
It's like I just got hit, like in football. That's how you feel. Like I'll walk it off. No, go to the hospital.
Right? So like, and when I first got back to the scene, like the first thing I did was I handed my chief my weapon because I knew like I'm now, I'm big, huge investigation now, like I'm out of the game. Right. So we get, we get out of the car at the hospital. We go to walk in, and I notice as I'm walking in, there's this guy, really nice suit on. This is one thing I noticed. And as we go to walk in, he's like, "Hey, are you Gary Pacelli?" I'm like, "Yeah, who are you?" He's like, "I'm your lawyer." He says, "Give me your phone." I'm like, "All right." I hand him my phone. He's like, "You don't talk to anybody. You don't talk to the doctors. You don't talk to the nurses. You don't talk to no one. I do all the talking for you." He says, "Where's your wife?" I said, "She's home. She's on bed rest because she's pregnant. My son is about to be born like any day, right?" So he's like, "All right, well, we were going to transport her here, but we can't do that now. So we got to send somebody there to stay with her." I'm like, my partner Jose lives around the corner, but he's in Miami working a job, right? One of the cases he was working ended up going down there. I said, "But his wife should be home. We'll call her. We'll get her over there." All right. So she was home. She went to my house, and the lawyer's like, your wife can't use the phone. She can't watch TV, and don't answer the door. Okay. Of course, What does my wife do? Watches TV, talks on the phone. You know what I mean? Like, who wouldn't? And again, this is all over the news, though. It's just nonstop. And so we're we go. Me and Lenny are put in this hospital room, and now internal affairs shows up, and I'm like, "Oh man," And they're like, no, we're here. I know these guys. You know what I mean? Like I worked in a jail with these guys, And they're like, "No, listen, Gary, it's not like that. We're not here. We're here to help you. We're here to make sure nobody talks to you. We're going to stand outside your door." So, all right, cool. And because Bergen County Homicide is outside, they're arguing back. I hear them yelling. They want a statement from me, and I'm not giving no statement, especially to them. You know what I mean? Like, so we're sitting in a room, and the nurse comes in, and now you got to understand, Big Lenny's like, he's a beast, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's a great, cop and everything. I really respect him. Like, I look up to him. Like, he trained me and everything. So he's sitting there, and the nurse comes in, and he goes from talking to me like I'm talking to you to, as soon as the nurse walks in, he's like, "Oh, I can't breathe. You got to give me something." And the nurse is like, "Oh, okay. You're just stressed out. I'll get you something." And he turns around and he goes, "Yeah, and get him something too." He says he's all right, but he hit his head. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So I don't say nothing. The nurse walks out, and I said, "Hey, I don't want nothing. What are you talking about? What are you doing?" He's like, "You dumbass." He's like, "If they put you on medication, you can't give a statement." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So okay. So the nurse comes in. She gives us, I don't know what she gives us. Maybe Xanax. I don't even know.
Yeah.
So now I can't give a statement. I wouldn't have given one anyway. The lawyer would have never allowed it. So the news though is playing constantly, man. It's going. And I think I sent you that.
Yeah.
Right? Now at the end of that clip though, you'll catch something. The newscast or whatever says, we're waiting for breaking news on the Kobe Bryant situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
She didn't finish saying it, but she said, "We're waiting for breaking news," and that's when my tape cut off. My uncle worked for NBC, and he got me that tape.
Going on now in New Jersey, there's been a police-involved shooting which ended with a police officer hit by a car.
It's also causing major traffic backups at this hour. CBS 2 reporter Rose Walia live in Fort Lee with more. Rose.
Mary Todd, police tell us the incident took place about 3 o'clock, and this is what they told us happened. The Drug Enforcement Agency had set up a surveillance stop across the street at the Exxon on Route 4 eastbound, but a man driving decided not to stop. He stepped on the gas and hit a DEA officer. That's when authorities chased and shot him. They hit the man in the arm, and the pursuit ended on I-95 approaching the George Washington Bridge. One officer driving to assist in the incident crashed his car into a guardrail. He is okay, we're told. The officer who was run over was taken to Hackensack Hospital. He's doing okay as well. The driver is at Columbia Presbyterian. No life-threatening injuries to him. Now, back here at Route 4, it has been shut down, eastbound lanes. It has been for a couple of hours now. That is causing tremendous traffic in the area. You may be able to see Chopper 2 shots right now. You can see a lot of people trying to find alternate routes. So if you can avoid this area, please do. We expect this traffic to last for quite a few hours. We're live in Fort Lee. Rose Wally at CBS 2 News. Mary Todd.
All right, Rose, thank you. And we are right now very close to an announcement on whether basketball star Kobe Bryant.
And so on the news, it said he's waiting for the report of Kobe Bryant going to be charged with rape, right? So maybe about a half hour later, she breaks in, breaking news, Kobe Bryant charged with rape. So with this, like, everybody who's there, it starts clapping, right? Because they knew that
would change the attention. Oh, yeah.
They didn't report on me again. It was over.
No, for sure. Kobe Bryant is way more eyes on him than a police officer, for sure.
Absolutely. And that's what I needed, I mean, because it was building and building and building, So now the guy admitted, he gave a statement that he knew I was on the car and he was going to crush me against the divider. He said, he was held on a $2 million bond and he was in jail, right? But of course, he ended up getting a lawyer and everything changed. It went from, he thought I was carjacking him to, right? And then that wasn't going to work because they found his driver's license on the highway, right? So, it fell out during the whole, and then it was, I walked up to the car and just shot him. Of course, I didn't do that. But he ended up suing everybody, right? He sued me for $25 million. And he sued my department. He sued the DEA. He sued, everyone.
God damn it.
So I was like kind of freaked out. And I said to my chief, I'm like, damn, chief, he's like, oh, don't worry about it. He's not going to get nothing. And he didn't get anything. But what he did get was, so the DEA ended up, they panicked. So they cut a deal with him. They went behind my back and they talked to the prosecutor and they gave him lifetime probation, which isn't, he's from Virginia. Who's going to monitor him? Nobody's going to monitor him lifetime. That's ridiculous, So that was the deal they gave him.
So no jail time.
No jail time. Just
Are you
8
fucking
months.
kidding me? He tried to kill an officer. My goodness, because let's say it would be just somebody that tries to kill an officer. Like that's like trying to kill a child. Like you're going in prison for a long, long time. And now he just managed everything because scared tactics. Actually, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
And what makes that really bad is like it sends a really bad message out there. Just sue everybody, and
that's it. They're gonna panic.
That's what you got to do. So, and they did it the way they did
behind your back, though. Wow,
behind my back. That was I found out because they called me up and they said we need you to go to court to show support for the sentencing. I'm like, what are you talking about? What sentencing? And that's when I found out. And I'm like, I'm not going to court. I hung up on them. Like you're crazy. That's not happening. So, but again,
did you feel betrayed?
Absolutely. And because
absolutely, I totally understand you. Wow.
So the top two bosses at the time in that field office, they were in a car with one of the agents that worked on our group, right? So they got the call, and this is all the information they got was, that I had gotten into a shooting. They didn't know if it was a shootout. They didn't know anything. So when they got off the phone, the one guy looks at the other guy and he says, how can we distance ourselves from this kid, right? Now, the guy in the back seat, the agent that we worked with, turns around and goes, you don't even know if Gary's alive. You have no idea what the situation is, and you're looking to burn him already? They basically told him to shut up, but that's what they were doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I felt totally betrayed, right? But again,
because you knew in your heart, deep down, the intentions of that motherfucker was to rip you apart. Absolutely,
100%, 100%. Yeah.
My goodness.
So
I got shivers. That is some sad shit. I can't believe it.
yeah, but you think those like, but we're not shocked though, because that's kind of why we're there, right? Because we're like a paper towel, right? You use it, you throw it away, and that's it. You don't think about it again, right? And
Wow.
that's how they do it, and it backfired on them though, right? Because both of those guys were in that position. They weren't permanent. They were only acting, right? So they hadn't been like given the official nod to have that job. And then once like it got around how they handled the shooting, they didn't get the position. They got replaced, So it backfired on them, and it always does, right? Because even their own guys were like, that's crazy, Because if they're willing to do that to me, right? Well, what's next? They'll do it to one of their own, They don't care about nobody but themselves, right? So I mean, I got off, I don't want to say lucky, but I had to retire because of that, right? I ended up having 11 surgeries, right? I had a total of 7 left shoulder operations. On the 7th one, they replaced it, right? And then I had a wrist surgery. I had 2 spine surgeries. So what is that? 7, 8, 9, 10. There's one more in there somewhere. There's one more. My deltoid muscle snapped, so they had to go back in and just reattach everything, right? And that's from all the surgeries. They just. It is
And
what it
you
is,
saying after the accident, "Oh, I'm good. I just want to go chase
Yeah,
it."
no, I'm good, right? I'm good. Right? I could have sat on the highway waiting for the ambulance, right? But
the adrenaline is pumping, and the guy just
man.
tried to bring you to your death. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so like when I got released from the hospital, I was still like, I'm all right, because of the adrenaline, and so my son was born like I think it was 11 days after the shooting, and we didn't have a name picked out for him yet, so we ended up naming him Chase, as like a police chase, right? We thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a nice name as well. Nice.
Yeah, so it was, but it was what a stressful time though, and so what happened was after about 8 or 9 days, like the adrenaline wore off, and then my body just twisted up, and I could barely get out of bed,
Wow.
So, then the surgery started, right, and so they ended up retiring me, they my department treated me well. They really, really took care of me. You know what I mean? They gave me, 2 of the highest medals, the Combat Cross and the Legion of Honor, So I went out, with honors.
Went out with a bang.
Really, yeah, like it means a lot though, because what happens when you go, you're getting operated on like every 4 to 6 months, you kind of lose touch. In the beginning, when I first retired, I would go meet the guys out, have a couple drinks with them, but after a little while, like you feel out of place, because, they're telling
You're
the
not
story.
living what they live. Yeah, that's it on a
Yeah,
daily.
you know what I mean?
So you
You
feel
start to
like that third wheel.
right. So you stop going, right, and you withdraw, right, and and again you're popping pain pills like there's no tomorrow, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just like boom, because again, every time you start to recover a little bit, another surgery and another one and another one, and this went on for years, man. Like 4.5 years this went on, right?
Wow.
So during that whole time, man, like I lost myself. You know what I'm saying? Like I was always in really great shape, like I was like solid, and I'm sitting here and, I knew I was gaining weight, but I made excuses for myself again, because with the pain pills, like
Yeah, you
it
become
makes you not
nonchalant.
really, yeah, you're like, yeah, whatever. Everybody my age looks like this. Who cares? I'm injured. You know what? What do I get to do? You know what I mean? You make excuses, right? But so one day, like I was looking at pictures of my niece's graduation party, and I saw a picture of me and my family, and man, it hit me, I didn't recognize myself.
Wow.
I looked, I was like, holy shit, like that's what I've become, and that was it. Like I just went on a mission from that point, man. I said, no way, I'm not doing this. I'm not fucking doing it. So it took me like probably about 2 years, man, maybe a little more, 2.5 years. I got back in shape. I lost weight. I cut down on the pain pills like dramatically, and I was starting to feel pretty good. I went from 265 to 175.
Oh
Okay.
shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I really, I was doing intermittent fasting, and I was,
Wow.
I couldn't even go to the gym when I realized that how bad a shape I was in. I couldn't even go to the gym. I had to start out just walking, and then after a couple of weeks, I'd put a dumbbell somewhere. I'd walk around the track and do some dumbbells and walk and do some push-ups just to be able to get into the gym,
Yeah.
Then it took me a while. I got into the gym and I started working out, and I just kept going. And,
Wow.
and again, I got down to 175, and, but I was still missing something, I was missing that,
That high,
that,
that
yeah,
adrenaline rush.
that camaraderie,
Oh yeah, too.
the whole, like,
Family.
so yeah. And so I said, I got to figure something out. I got to do something. Now I had done a skydive when I got out of boot camp, right? Me and my buddy was like, hey, let's go skydiving. All right. So they took you up in a little Cessna, and you jumped out at like 3,000 feet, and it was a big round parachute. You couldn't really steer it, and you really couldn't land it. You had to just hit the ground and fall, but it was great. It was awesome, just like having one leg on the step and holding the strut of the plane and just letting go, and, and it was a static line jump. So it pulled it out for you. Right.
Okay.
It was just awesome. So, back then I said, I'm going to get my skydive license. Right. But, I didn't. Life happened, whatever, I got busy. I never did it. But this time I was like, no way. I'm going to get my skydive license.